every once in a while you run into a company it's actually just a pleasure to work with, and Haloview happens to be that company for us. Haloview reached out to us, asked if we could do another review for them. They do backup cameras or observation cameras. We did a review, I believe, last year on their BT7, which is an observation camera, which we actually love. We really did. Then they came out and asked us to do a review on their BT6 Touch. A little bit smaller footprint, but touchscreen. We absolutely fell in love with that. This time though, I think they may have outdone themselves. They sent us the BT7 touchscreen and supposedly the world's first integrated TPMS observation camera built in. If this is true to what they say, to me this is awesome, and it's a game changer. So a backup camera with TPMS built in. We're really excited about this. We're going to go through what comes in the kit, what we received. We'll go through some functionality and then also how to install this, and most importantly we'll give it the road test, and as always you will always get our honest opinion on this. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, instead of going through every single little piece, every wire, every connector, or every bracket or mount that comes in this kit, we already did that. We did that for the BT6 review and the BT7 review. So if you're interested in that, I don't want to waste a whole bunch of time on that. Feel free to watch those videos for a complete list. But what I do want to go over is what's new. What's new in this kit from the other kits we already did. And it's mainly going to be the TPMS portion of the kit. So let's go ahead and get started on some parts that come with the kit to support the TPMS system. First thing we have is this is their booster. Now the kit actually comes with two boosters. They do suggest putting one towards your rear sensor as far back as it goes, and then another one, if needed, would be up towards the front of the your RV. Now with us we have a fifth wheel. Our original TPMS, I had a booster up in the basement area, so that's what we're going to try to do here. We're going to try to get away with just the one booster up in our front basement, and so we can plug it right into the battery as well. Now they do suggest having this within about 26 feet of your sensor. They can actually pick up signals much larger than that, but it all depends on what's in the way, what kind of obstacles. So we are going to try to use the one booster and go from there, and that'll be part of our road test. We're going to see if we lose signals or not. They come with just some small pieces. Again, if you had to maybe tie this into a rear light or rear power, they give you some options for that. There's also a little bit of hardware for mounting these boosters, and some just some tires just to clean things up. Just basically this is all mounting type stuff. So that's the booster for the TPMS. The next thing they also have in this particular kit is 6 sensors. So this is one of the sensors. This actually goes on, per tire. Each tire you want to monitor, we have a sensor. It also has, hopefully you can see this, it's just a little backing nut. Now what this is for, it's really an anti-theft device. You can think of it like that. So when you screw your sensor down, you can have that backing nut and tighten it down against the sensor, so when they're really kind of forced against each other, it's hard to unscrew the sensor. Of course, if somebody wants it that bad, they're going to get it off, but that's just a little piece of security. And of course they give you a little wrench as well to tighten up that backing nut. They also come with batteries for each of the sensors as well. So that is the main components to the TPMS portion. Just to show you, this is the actual monitor. This is the 7-inch, it's the BT7, so it's a 7-inch display. It is a touchscreen, and we'll go through a lot of the functionality after this. And of course we have a couple antennas as well. Now something different about this one from the first BT7 we had is power options. So this one has the power option of 12 volt DC or USB Type-C port as well. So that's really nice. You have 2 different ways to power this up. And that USB port comes in real handy when you go to monitor your, or when you go to pair your sensors, and I'll show you why. So that is the main components for the TPMS. And again, if you want to go through everything, I would suggest looking at one of our other two review videos we did. So let's go ahead and get into some of the new functionality, some of the new TPMS functionality. There's no signal on here while you see it on the screen because I do not have a camera set up yet, and I do have this monitor powered up right now just with the battery pack through the USB port. So let's go ahead and click on the screen. We're going to tap on the screen. This is called a submenu 1. Tap on it again, and that is submenu 2. Submenu 1 that gives us the option of changing between channel 1s all the way up through channel 4. And if we had multiple cameras, we could go into Q mode as well. Submenu 2 is some basic settings. We have our parking lanes. We can turn those on or off. Volume control, we can turn volume on or off. We also have lighting. This is backlighting for the screen. We also have camera night light. This would be used at nighttime. We can also record. We can start a recording, and we can go into the TPMS menu. Now we'll go back to the first submenu 1. This takes us into the main menu, and we have a lot more options. Again, we have volume control, we have some pairing. We can adjust our picture, let's say, for brightness and contrast, things like that. We can actually mirror what's being displayed on the monitor, left or right, or up or down. Again, Q mode options. We can actually scan if you have multiple cameras. Again, you can scan through them. The park line, this here, we can adjust where our park lines are going to be, left or right, up or down. The other option you can do is you can make these wider or narrower, or wider or narrower this way. So that's your parking line as well. We'll get out of here. The main thing we really want to see today is the TPMS menu, and that's what we're looking at right now. Now, as you can see, the way this is laid out, on the left-hand side of the screen is our tow vehicle. On the right-hand side of the screen, we're displaying trailer 1. Now, we do have the option of up to 3 trailers. And as you can see, these trailers each have a total of 6 main tires, and on the end would be a spare tire as well. Now, what's nice with the TPMS, it monitors high pressure. It can also monitor low pressure, high temperature, low sensor battery, loss of sensor, or loss of sensor signal. You can also detect a slow leak or a fast leak. So it does quite a bit. Now, something I really like about this is when I plug in all 6 of my sensors, or when I pair them all up, I can monitor all 6 tires at one time. So we can take a quick look in here. We'll just pick one of these tires. I will select it, and it brings up another sub-menu for the TPMS, and we'll go through some of these settings just to help you understand them. This is just sensor number 13. They're just listed in order. There's nothing special about that. I can set the high pressure per axle. You can see this is axle 4. I have my high pressure set to 150 psi. Now, typically it's set to 120% of your cold tire pressure. My tires are set at 125 psi, so 120% would be 150 psi. I can also set the low tire pressure. Again, this would be 85% of my tire rating, which again would be 125 psi. So it's 106 psi is the low pressure. We have auto learn button. When the auto learn button is pressed, you will see weighting showing up in there, and what happens at that point, you would screw in your sensor to your tire stem, and they would pair up, and then you would see the ID of the sensor. This is the ID showing up here. This is the ID of the sensor that I plugged in earlier. I could change that to something if I wanted to, but it really doesn't matter as long as I know what tire it's on. I could delete the ID. I could press this down here and delete the ID if I made a mistake, or by chance I had to, maybe a sensor went bad, I had to repair it, or for whatever reason, you can delete it and start all over again. On the right hand side, we could actually reset and delete all the IDs on this trailer if needed. I hope I don't have to do that, but it is pretty straightforward as well. You would just have to start over, pairing up all your sensors again. And we also have what's known as a high temperature. This came up at 158 degrees. I think I'm going to leave it like that for now. So it's a good place to start. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of trick this. I'm going to set my high pressure to, let's go down to maybe 110. 111 is fine. Enter. Now what's going to happen is you can see that we are over our PSI high pressure, and then it'll take a few seconds or so, but we'll get an alert as well. You can see now that it's reading a high pressure. We can see this tire is 124. I have my high pressure set to 111. So we do have the high pressure alert. We have a warning here as well. We could actually turn the sound off if we wanted to. And you'll see on the main screen, again, I don't have a camera set up right now, but we have the warning sign up in the top right hand corner of the screen as well. That's the basic functionality of the BT7 Touch with TPMS. This is really, really exciting. I love the colors. I love the touchscreen. Just the overall look and feel is really, really nice. Now our next step is going to be, we're going to go ahead and make sure our camera is paired up. We'll get the camera installed. We'll get our booster installed. And then our final step will be to install our sensors. The first thing we're going to do before we install anything is I really want to make sure my camera and my monitor are paired up. Now they do come pre-paired on channel 4 from the factory. This is just a check just to make sure. For some reason they're not paired, make sure you're on channel 4, or if you had to, you can manually pair them. But what I'm doing is I have our power cord plugged into our outlet in the vehicle. I'm using the pairing cable that came with the kit. One end of the cable goes into the power cord. The other two ends, one goes into the monitor and the other end goes into the camera. And all we're really doing is supplying power to the monitor and to the camera. Now I just checked to make sure I was on channel 4. These powered up. I'm hoping you can see that. You can see the camera, whatever the camera sees is on the monitor. And there's my lovely assistant again. So now that we know these are paired and they're working, I can actually go ahead now and install the camera. The camera installation is actually very, very simple. We simply removed our old camera, plugged in our new camera, and screwed it down with 4 screws. Now we have a 45-foot fifth wheel, so we also use an extension antenna. We attached that antenna to the camera and ran it all the way up to the front of our RV so we get a very strong signal from our camera to our monitor. If you want to see the actual step-by-step instructions on installing the camera, I would suggest watching our BT6 review video. The next thing we're going to do is to install one of our boosters up in the front compartment of our RV. Now the kit does come with 2 boosters, but we are going to try to see if we can get away with just 1. Now we're going to install this booster up in the front basement of our RV. So the very first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to remove these alligator clips. I want to put some ring terminals on it and be able to attach those ring terminals to our battery. So we're going to see in our road test if we can get away with just 1 booster. After we do this, now we can get on to our next step. Our next step is to install the sensors on each of our tires. Now to do this, you really kind of have the monitor fairly close to the sensor for pairing. We're going to pair these up. Now I actually have a little battery pack with a USB port on it so I can power up my monitor. If you did not have one of these, your next best option would probably be powering up your monitor in your tow vehicle, or however you're going to power your monitor. And then once you start to pair, you're going to have to kind of come right over and screw in your sensor and try to get these paired up. And you may have to get the monitor fairly close to do that as well. So a couple things we're going to do. First thing is, in the kit they give you these little locking nuts. I'm going to put this on the valve stem. What this is used for is once I put my sensor on, I can tighten this down to the sensor. And it's supposed to be basically an anti-theft device. So when that gets tight against the sensor, it's hard to unscrew the sensor. So it's just a little bit of security. Next thing we're going to do is I went ahead and already put the battery inside the sensor. And the kit also comes with this little wrench. And we're going to use this once the sensor's on to tighten down this little backing nut. So first thing we have to do, I am getting into the TPMS menu. I'm going to hit TPMS. Now what I'm going to do is I want to select this tire so I know it is the rear tire all the way in the back, and I know which side it's on as well. So I am going to go ahead and touch that. There's another option here that says auto learn. Now as soon as I hit auto learn, I'm going to see something waiting. It's going to be sitting there waiting. And once I do that, then I have about 15 seconds to get this screwed in, and then it should be paired up after that. So let's go ahead and hit auto learn and screw in our sensor. Okay. So once this is snug, I'm trying to go about another quarter turn. I don't want to gorilla tighten this. This is on pretty good. Now I have the ID of the sensor on here, so they're paired up. Now what I can do, use this wrench that came with the kit and just tighten down this backing nut onto my sensor. And now the sensor's kind of hard to get off. So now that we have this one paired up, we can go ahead and do the rest of our sensors. Now that all the sensors are installed, I need to come back to my monitor, set the high pressure, low pressure, and high temperature for all the axles on my RV. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go to axle 4. I'll just start out on one of my tires. My tires are rated at 125 psi. This will automatically set a high pressure to 120% of that rating, and for me that's 150 psi. And my low pressure will be set to 85% of the rating. In my case that is 106 psi. High temperature is going to be set to 158. This I think I might play around with that a little bit. I'm really, not sure a good temperature for that, but 158 is a good place to start. So this tire is all set up. I can just go down to my next. You can see here I have a high pressure of 150, a low of 102. So I do want to set this to 106. Let me back that up. And just make sure I hit enter. And 158 is good. I'll go to this tire. I want to set my high pressure to 150. Make sure I hit enter. And low pressure to 106. Enter. And 158. So we're all good here. I'm just going to go around and check all my tires. So that's it. All of our axles are set. We have a high pressure of 150 psi, a low pressure of 106 psi, and a high temperature of 158 degrees. So now all that's left to do is to give this a road test. Okay, we're ready for our road test. It's going to be pretty exciting. We only have about 125 miles to go today, but it's plenty long enough to make sure we're getting good connectivity between the monitor and our sensors, and also the monitor and our backup camera. I'll show you where I mounted this. I ended up using the suction cup mount. You can see right here. This is just currently some bushes behind me. I can tap on this, tap it again, go to the TPMS menu. And hopefully you can see that, but I can read all 6 of my tires. They're slightly below what I would normally like, but it's kind of chilly out right now and it's going to warm up. So I think we're okay. We'll get back to here. And now that we're all set, what we're going to do is during the trip today, we'll monitor the backup camera, we'll monitor the sensors, play around with recording a little bit, recording some traffic, and just the touchscreen, see how everything goes, and I'll let you know how it is. So far, so good. I've been able to use the touchscreen, check out my backup camera, observation camera, also check out the TPMS. One of my big concerns and one of the main reasons for this road test was I really wanted to check out my booster. If you remember, the kit comes with 2 boosters. I only installed one, and the one that I installed is up in the very front of my 5th wheel right next to the battery. And it's about 20 feet away from my furthest sensor. So I did have a little concern about that, but so far I have not lost any signals on my sensors. They're all reading just fine, but it is something I will monitor all day today on this travel day. But so far I'm really loving the touchscreen, the backup camera, just like all their backup cameras, the color, the clarity, the resolution is just unbelievable. So it's really nice. So we're going to continue with the road test and play around with some of the other functionality. I really love the resolution of this backup camera. It's very nice. Hopefully you can get a feel of that through the video. But it is very simple, touch screen. I can go back into my TPMS menu. You can see that I'm monitoring all 6 of my tires. All my sensors are connected. So far, I haven't had any problems with connectivity with the sensors. I can also go into one of my tires just to double check the high pressure, the low pressure, and the temperature. They're all set to how I want that. So everything's looking good. I can get out of here, go back to my backup camera, and just kind of monitor. So we're going to continue monitoring, continue playing around, and I will let you know any issues that I do find. But so far we're looking good. Now that the road test is complete, let's talk a little bit about how we installed our whole system. We'll talk a little about the pros and some cons, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up from there. First off, the installation. Now what we did is we use the extended antenna, so it attaches to the camera on the back of our RV, runs all the way across the top of the roof, and it's mounted on the front of the RV. So we've never lost a signal from our monitor to our camera. That's really nice. The TPMS system. If you remember, this kit comes with 2 boosters, and this was one of my biggest concerns. I only installed 1 booster up at the front, the battery compartment of the RV, and it is 20 feet from there to my rear axle or the furthest sensor. So I was a little concerned about that. However, during the road test, we've never lost a signal. It was flawless. It was really nice, and so I was very happy with that. So as far as installation goes, we did it right the first time. Didn't have any problems. I do have some notes here. I'm going to go through some pros. I think pros and some cons, and then we'll wrap it up. As far as pros go, it's one less device on the dashboard. We usually ride with a TPMS, a backup camera, and a GPS on our dashboard. Now I can get rid of that TPMS. I only have 2 devices on my dashboard, so it's a little bit cleaner look. I can, doesn't block as much of my view as well. The other thing, I think this is huge, I can now monitor all 6 of my tires at one time. My old TPMS, it would cycle through tires. It would show one tire maybe for 5 seconds, go to the next tire, and continue, just kind of loop through all 6 tires. I can switch over to the TPMS mode on this, and I see all 6 of my tires at one time. Of course, the temperature and the pressure. So that's really, I love that. That's really nice. We already talked about this, but installation was very easy, very clean, a super easy setup. The colors, I really like the monitor, the colors, the contrast. It's very bright and easy to see, and this is how all their other the BT6 and our older BT7 was the same way. They really got their colors in their monitor down very well. Touchscreen, I really love the touchscreen as well. Sometimes, like even with my phone, I can touch it and may not have a hard time picking up my finger. This touchscreen was pretty good and didn't really have any problems with it. We can also, and again, when I first did this, I didn't think I would like this, but I really do now. I can record and play back video from my dash cam. Now, I mentioned this in one of our other videos or other review videos, I think for the BT6. I have a dash cam on the front of my truck. Now I basically have a dash cam on the back of the RV too, because it can sit there and record anything that's going on behind me. So that's really, really nice. This is something, it's I guess it's interpretive, or maybe just my opinion, but I think if you were to buy a quality TPMS, they're pretty expensive, and a backup camera separate, I think this is cheaper. I think you're going to save some money by getting the two together, and I know we did based on what I paid for my last TPMS. So I think those are some of the pros. Now I do have a couple, I'm going to call them cons, well, even though they're really not nothing wrong. But the first thing is, if this unit was ever to die on you, now you've lost a TPMS and a backup camera. So it is something to think about. If a second booster is needed, now in our case, I really don't have anything back by my rear axle. I would probably have to tie into one of my lights, and that could get, it's easy enough to do, but it's just going to be time consuming, kind of a pain in the neck. So if a second booster was needed, that might be a little bit of a pain, but like I said, we only had the one, and we're 45 feet long, so hopefully that's not needed. Now I do have a couple suggestions, something I would love to see them do in the future. One thing would be some flow-through sensors. So these sensors here, in order to put air in your tire, you have to take them off, put your air in, and put the sensors back on. Not that big of a deal, and actually some people like it that way. I kind of like the flow-through sensor, so I don't have to take them off every time I need to put air in my tires. So that's something I would like to see maybe in the future. The other thing I noticed when on the road test, whenever I would go into the TPMS menu, honestly it's just a couple clicks. I get into the TPMS menu, I touch the screen again to get out of the TPMS menu. What I would love to see is maybe you could touch like the top right of the screen, which would automatically go into the TPMS menu, maybe have it up there for 10 or 15 seconds and then go back to a backup camera. I think that'd be a pretty nice feature, or a nice feature in the future. So hopefully they're going to watch this and maybe consider that as well. Overall, a great product. We do love the Haloview products. Again, this is our third backup camera. We can't say enough good things about it. Also, if this is something you think you like just to research yourself or even purchase one, I have some links. I'll put them below in the description of the video, and Haloview is kind enough also to give you a 5% discount if you use one of our links as well. So check it out, at least check it out. If you don't want to purchase one, they're a lot of money, I get it, but check them out, look at their website, and decide for yourself. Hopefully you enjoyed their review. Remember, always live life to the fullest.